Hi, I'm Ken Miller, and this is Carolina Ray, and we're here to show you some movements that you can do to help improve or at least maintain flexibility in the hips. So where this is going to cater to you and where you're going to benefit from this the most is anybody who sits down a lot. So we're talking about students who are behind the computer or reading or sitting in class, or if you're working in an office setting where you're sitting behind a computer, or anybody who has a long commute. Anywhere where you're flexed at the hip, things tend to get tight. So we're going to do a combination of self-myofascial technique as well as some stretchings that you can do to help improve mobility. So what we have here is some basic tools that can help improve flexibility. So here we have this roller, or the Viper by Hyperice, as well as a version of the sphere with the Hypersphere and the Mini. And then, of course, with your percussion, we have the Hypervolt. So today, we're going to go look at how we're going to use the roller. So this is going to be one of the more self-sufficient as far as self-application of self-myofascial technique is concerned. So here, we're going to use the Viper. This vibrates, so now you can add a little bit of vibration to your technique, but for the purposes of this demonstration, we'll just go ahead and keep this off. So we're going to have Carolina here, first of all, work on her quads. So she's going to get in a nice prone position as she finds a nice tender spot. When I say tender, on a tenderness scale of 10 to 1, 10 being absolutely painful, 1 being almost nothing, what she's going to look for is about a 6 or a 7 on that tenderness scale. Enough that she knows it's there and it's affecting her, but not so intense that she's in pain. So something that's manageable, something that's tolerable. So you'll see here that even though she's laying prone on this roller, she's just going to still keep nice neutral position at the head and neck, and as well as the midsection. So as she holds that spot, which can be anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds, or until that tenderness that she felt initially dissipates by 50 to 60%. So there's a significant calming down of that muscle that she's on right now, or that spot that she's on right now. So once that calms down, she's feeling some relief. The next thing we're going to have her do is we're going to start to have her do a little mobility on here. So this is not just about putting the muscle or the weight on the implement. We're now going to start moving some tissue on top of the Viper. So Carolina's going to go ahead and start to add a little bit of flexion and extension. So with control, she's still, again, making sure she keeps good control of that midsection as she flexes and extends at the knee. So she's going to do this for about 2 to 3 repetitions. On this last repetition, she's going to go ahead and hold up, and then she's going to perform what we would call a windshield wiper. So keeping the hips nice and neutral. Now she's going to internally and externally rotate at the hip. So she's just going to go to the point of tension when it comes to the external and the internal rotation and go back and forth. So about 8 to 10 repetitions of that. The next thing that she's going to do is perform what we call scrubbing. So she's just going to do a little cross friction of her thigh across the top of that Viper. So keeping that knee flex position, and again, just like normal, keeping that head, neck in a neutral position, low back in a neutral position. She'll keep that flex, and then after a few seconds of that, she's going to go ahead and flex and extend again. So this is an important muscle as far as the quad goes, because the quad goes from the hip and connects down through the knee. So when there's a lot of tension through the front of the thigh, a lot of times the quad's going to be a participant in that tightness. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get the adductors. The adductors, or the inner thighs, going to get pretty tight, especially in that seated position. It's an often ignored muscle, and for a lot of people, this can be very, very tender. So here we're going to go, placement-wise, we're going to put that Viper parallel to the spine. And then Carolina's going to hike up her knee, or she hiked up her knee about 90 degrees, just short of 90 degrees from her body. And for her to find her tender spot, she's going to go left to right in finding that spot. So once she finds that spot, she's going to sit, hold still, just like she did with the quad. Again, nothing changes between the head, neck, and the hips being in a nice neutral position. Again, safety first, and if we look at it, this is just like the prone iso ab. So the same compensations we'd watch out for with the prone iso ab, same things we can watch out for here. So with the adductors, we can add a little bit of mobility here. So again, holding 30 to 60 seconds or until about 50% dissipation or reduction in tenderness. Then we can start to add some movement. So you'll see here, she's got some clearance to where she can extend and flex the knee. Right there. All right, and she's gonna flex the knee, and at that flex, she's gonna bend that knee. Right here, now she's gonna add a little windshield wiper motion, just like she did with the quad. This is a little bit more challenging than when she did the quad, but she's gonna raise that foot up to the sky, down to the ground. She's kind of dropping here. And then we're gonna go ahead and add here a little bit of scrubbing as well. So she's gonna go up and down and add that cross friction onto that viper. And to end it off, we'll end off with about 2 to 3 flexes and extensions. Perfect. All right, so we had the front of the thigh, we got the middle of the thigh. Again, the other part of the hip is the glute, or the backside. And one area that might be a little tight is the glute medius or the piriformis. So we're going to emphasize the piriformis 2 different ways. So you'll see here that we go from laying on the ground, prone, with the quad and the adductor, to now where she's sitting on top of the roller. So 2 positions here. One, both feet are on the ground, and she's going to lift over or rotate over onto that right hip, which is the hip we're going to focus on right now. So she can go up from her waistband down to the lower part of her back pocket. She can also rotate out and go to the outer hip or go more towards the midline. Right? So she finds a spot, hangs out, sits still, but we can still add a little bit of motion here. So here, we're not going to get that flexion extension. We're not going to have all that availability like we had through the knee. But what we can do is a little bit of cross friction on this one. So she's going to have to move her hips left to right to get that cross friction. Okay. Now the next position we can get into to hit the same hip area is to now get into a figure 4. So if she's on her right hip, she's going to take her right leg, flex it, and put her right ankle on her left knee. Now a couple ways you can play with the tension in the hip here is, one, this left supporting leg, she can straighten it out, and that reduces the amount of flexion and rotation at that right hip. Or she can bring that right heel or left heel closer to her hip, which increases the amount of rotation that's going on with that right hip. So if she's on a spot, she's going to hold. Once that spot or that tenderness dissipates, now she can go ahead and add a little bit of rotation, so she can drive that right knee up to her left shoulder. So she can just kind of add a little gentle pull and relax. And now she can also add in a little cross friction here. So now she can move right to left. Okay? Perfect. Okay, so that would be it for self-myofascial technique. So again, you have a few different options here to help relax the muscle, but now the muscle's relaxed. So whatever modality you pick, use it. You can get the quads, adductors, and glutes. Now the next thing that we can do here is to add a little bit of flexibility or static stretching. And with the static stretch, you can hold about 30 seconds. And what that's going to do is help improve or increase the length of that muscle that you're stretching. So the first thing we're going to do is the figure 4 stretch. So we just did the glutes as far as the self-myofascial technique goes. So now we're going to keep that same figure 4, and what Carolina is going to do here is hold on to that right hamstring. So that right leg is supported by that left, and in this position, she's going to feel that around that right back pocket area. You feel it in there? Mm-hmm. Perfect. Now, we can add in a variation to where we're going to add in a little stretch through the hamstring. Carolina is going to go ahead and extend at the knee. So now we're going to get the hamstring on that left side, and then we can add in a little bit of calf stretch by having her dorsiflex or basically pull that toe towards pointing at her nose. So again, this she can hold on for that 30 seconds or so and relax. So from here, we can turn this static stretch that we would hold to more of an active stretch. So her holding up in this position, she can go ahead and now extend up, point the toe down, hold there for a couple, and then relax the foot, relax the knee. So that's going to have more of a hamstring emphasis on this variation of that glute stretch. And that you would do for about 8 to 10 repetitions. All right, so once that's done, the next area we're going to move on to is the kneeling hip flexor. So with this kneeling hip flexor stretch, some people may have some knee issues to where kneeling directly on the ground can be pretty challenging. And that's where you would have some kind of padding like this Eric's pad here that they can kneel onto. So anything will help, soft cushion, whatever you have to help offset the tension that you're going to feel on that knee. So for starters, to get this right hip flexor or even into the quad, we're going to have good alignment. So ears, shoulders, hips, knees, and ankles. Making sure again, because there is a lot of tension in the front, that for them to move into the stretch, that they don't compensate into it, especially through that low back, which is very common. So knee above heel. What I'm going to have Carolina do is add in a little bit of a posterior pelvic tilt. So she's going to tuck her butt under. So she's going to tilt backwards. She's going to go ahead and add in a little bit of tension, pulling her belly button towards her spine. About 10-15% effort, not that much, but enough to make your brain aware of what's happening through that midsection. And a little bit of a glute squeeze so that we can activate the glutes and add into that posterior pelvic tilt. So from there, if she's not feeling it or she can feel it a little bit more, what she can do is just add in a little bit of hip drive to the first point of tension, and again, reposition the hip with a posterior pelvic tilt, sucking in skinny, belly button in towards the spine, and we can add more tension by having her add in the arms. So from here, she's going to reach up, and then she's going to reach over, so she's going to go right shoulder over left in this case, and then she's going to add a little rotation in there. And as always, watching out or being mindful of that low back. She's going to pull in, belly button in towards the spine, squeezing that right cheek, and she's going to hold here for about 30 seconds. And then she'll unwind, and of course, do the other side. All right, so for stretches, we've got the glute stretch, we've got the hip flexor stretch, and now to address the inner thighs, I'm going to have Carolina stand up. We're going to focus on the left adductor, the left inner thigh. So from here, because we're going to focus on that left inner thigh, just going to have a slight stagger stance with that right foot a little bit ahead of that left. So maybe about a half foot length in front. Both feet are pointing 12 o'clock parallel. Now from here, she's going to go and lunge towards that right. Now she's doing a great job of maintaining good alignment between that right hip, right knee, and that right foot. Good position of that low back, but again, I'm looking at ears, shoulders, and hips. This left knee is going to be straight. As she sits back, she's going to feel a little bit of a stretch through that left inner thigh. How does that feel?
Nice and stretchy.
Feels nice and stretchy. Awesome. So the other thing that she can do in this position, she can take the webbing of her left hand, puts it right across the crease of that hip, and apply pressure to add a little bit of distraction through that hip. So it's almost like that left hand is going towards that right heel. So belly button in again. Good position, good hold, and relax. All right, perfect. So again, 30 seconds each side should be enough to do it. So when it comes to sitting down, you're behind the desk, you're either a student studying, you're a corporate office worker, you're sitting watching the computer, anything where you're sitting down a lot, we got to improve blood flow, maintain that mobility so we're not stuck, and putting yourselves in harm's way when it comes to possible low back injuries or even knee injuries. So keep those hips nice and flexible. This is a great exercise you can do 3-4 minutes a day, every day. to keep everything nice and tuned up. So thanks for watching. Take care. Be safe.